Hey, welcome everyone. Peter Johnson, good enough to call an audible.
Happy to be in here.
Be with us for 3 hours today.
Delighted. Good to see you guys.
Always great to see you. Home. Thanks for being with us at this 8 a.m. hour. Bret Baier is also with us here. Good morning to you, Bret.
Good morning.
Hey, so big day today, just about an hour. Benjamin Netanyahu is set to speak. And tomorrow he's actually going to be speaking in front of Congress. Apparently it was, a handful, 3 dozen, I think it's 3 dozen Democrats said to boycott that speech there. What's word on the street with what's to come?
Well, it's going to be a big speech. It's going to be well attended, despite the Democrats who say they're not going to be attending the speech. And it is going to have a really blunt message from everything we've heard from the Israeli prime minister. Obviously, he will speak later on this morning at AIPAC. But the message to Congress is going to be pretty cut and dry about the threat, the existential threat that Israel faces and believes they face from Iran. I think it'll be interesting to see, even though you will have 30-plus Democrats protesting, you're going to have a full chamber that likely will be very receptive to the Israeli prime minister's message.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable, Bret, because last week, as you know, Susan Rice goes out in another show and blasts Benjamin Netanyahu and talks about essentially how inappropriate it is that he's coming here to speak and didn't check with the White House first. So it's clearly the White House against the prime minister for the first time in my lifetime.
Yeah, and, those remarks by Susan Rice really were, eyebrow-raising for a lot of people, that she thought that this move was destructive to the relationship. Not that it increases tensions, that it's a problem, but it was destructive in her words. Just a few minutes ago, Secretary Kerry over in Geneva said that he believed that this tension is a result of different points of view. He said expressed concerns and issued a warning to Netanyahu not to release details of this upcoming deal between the U.S. and Iran.
In fact, we have the Secretary of State. Let's see what he says.
Israel's security is absolutely at the forefront of all of our minds. But frankly, so is the security of all the other countries in the region. So is our security in the United States.
That seems unprecedented in some ways, Bret, that we are issuing a public warning to what may be our strongest ally not to leak details of a potential agreement
with our biggest enemy.
Does it appear to be, the relationship appear to be so fractured at this point?
With this prime minister and this president, it is fractured, clearly. And they are talking about it. There's a lot of scrambling from everything we hear about inside the White House, that they are concerned about the impact of this speech on not only the deal, but also on Congress and the ability of Congress to step back and not move forward with sanctions ahead of a possibility of a deal. But listen, the more anyone hears about the deal, Israel or lawmakers on the Hill, the more questions they have going forward.
Because it seems like a bad one.
Yeah, from AIPAC to CPAC here. Rand Paul came out of the straw poll ahead, okay? So almost 26% there. But all the talk today seems to be about the guy in second place, and that's Scott Walker. So what do you think about this? So Rand Paul is at about 25.7%, Bret, and then Scott Walker came in at 21.4%. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Rand Paul, 3rd consecutive win at CPAC. Not surprising. It is kind of his crowd, a little bit more libertarian, a little younger. In fact, 47% of those voting in the straw poll were 18 to 25 years old. 41% of them say marijuana should be legalized. So that gives you a little perspective on the straw poll and who is voting. However, it's still significant. It's a marker. And you're right. The focus is on Scott Walker. Not only was he second by far, but he was also number 1 for second choice by far of the CPAC voters.
And one of the last place was Jeb Bush, who had some people get up and walk out when he came in. So there's definitely not everybody singing from the same hymn sheet for the Republicans, which might not be bad. Let's talk about what's happening on Friday. We got a 1-week extension for Homeland Security funding, but the House just fell apart. What happened? What can we expect this week?
Well, there was just a lot of conservatives in the caucus who believed that they needed to stand their ground and vote against this effort to take out the part of the bill that overturns the president's executive actions on immigration. So you have a one-week extension. What's going to happen? The Republicans are going to try to push for going to conference, which means taking the Senate bill and the House bill and talking about it and getting a compromise. That likely is not going to happen because Democrats are going to hold the line. So you're going to have Speaker Boehner probably move forward with a bill, the one that the Senate passed, that funds Homeland Security through September. And that could be a challenge to him. I don't think it's going to challenge his leadership, but it is going to make some angst on Capitol Hill.
It is unbelievable because we could have another shutdown at the end of the week, and it was one of these times when the Speaker just seemed powerless. Bret Baier.
Well, he's got to herd the cats to get a lot of these things through. And what it does show quickly is how tough some of these big pieces of legislation may be to get across the finish line this session.
Yeah, you're right about that. Bret Baier, we'll see you later on tonight. Thanks for being with us.
See ya.
6 o'clock Eastern, a special report.